Welcome back to your daily dose of ancient wisdom. We continue our reading of Srimad Bhagavata, Book 1, Discourse 7. This is Aswatthama assassinates Draupadi's son, and Arjuna in turn curbs his pride. Saunaka said, On the departure of Narada, what did the divine and all-powerful Vyasa do after hearing that which was in the mind of the celestial sage? Suta replied, On the western bank of Saraswati river, presided over by Brahma, there is a hermitage called Samyaprasana, which promotes the sacrificial activities of sages. In that hermitage, which was Vyasa's own abode and was surrounded by a grove of jujube trees, the sage Vyasa sat down and, after sipping a little water, collected his mind by self-effort. In his sinless mind, which has been perfectly concentrated through the practice of devotion, he saw the primal person as well as Maya, who depend for her very existence on him. Deluded by this Maya, the individual soul, though beyond the three gunas, thinks itself as consisting of the three gunas and suffers the evil consequences brought about by this identification. Knowing that the practice of devotion of the Lord, who is beyond sense perception, is the direct means of counteracting these evils, the sage composed Srimad Bhagavata, the book of Vaishnavas, for the use of common people who are ignorant of this fact. Even as man listens to this work recited, devotion to Sri Krishna, the Supreme Person, wells up in the heart, devotion that dispels grief, infatuation, and fear. Having produced and revised the Bhagavata Samhita, the sage Vedavyasa taught it to his son Sukha, who loved to live in retirement. Saunaka said, The sage Sukha is a lover of quietism and is indifferent to everything belonging to the world. He delights only in his self. What was his motive then in mastering the voluminous work? Suta replied, Even sages who delight in self alone, and the knot of whose ignorance has been cut asunder, practice disinterested devotion to Srihari. Such are his virtues. This was true all the more of the divine sage Sukadeva, son of Badarayana or Vedavyasa, and the beloved of the Lord Vishnu's own people, who sustained this great chronicle every day, his mind having been captivated by Srihari's excellence. I shall now tell you the story of the birth, exploits, and emancipation of the royal sage Parikshit, and the ascent of Pandu's son to heaven, in as much as they serve as a prelude to the story of Sri Krishna. When in course of Mahabharata war, the warriors of Kaurava and Pandava's hosts had fallen like heroes, and when Duryodhana, son of Dhritarashtra, had his thigh broken by a stroke of the mace dealt by Bhima, who had an appetite of an wolf, Aswatthama, the son of Drona, severed the heads of Draupadi's sons while they were asleep and presented them to Duryodhana, an act which he imagined would please his master Duryodhana, but which really proved most distasteful to him, since everybody would strongly condemn such an audacious act. Sore distressed at the news of the terrible slaughter of her sons, the mother Draupadi bitterly wailed, her eyes blinded with tears. Then Arjuna, who had many a pointed datum on his head, comforted her, said, "Then alone shall I have wiped your tears, my good lady, when I cut off the head of that fallen Brahmana, the desperado, with the arrows discharged from my Gandiva bow, and present to you, that you may have set your foot on it and then bathe after the cremation of your sons." Having thus consoled his wife in sweet and charming words, Arjuna, who had Sri Krishna for his friend and charioteer, put on his armor and, taking his fierce bow, rode in a chariot with an ensign bearing the figure of a monkey in pursuit of Aswatthama, his preceptor's son. When Aswatthama, who was now sad at heart for his having assassinated young boys, saw from distance that Arjuna was rushing towards him, he ran for his life in a chariot as far as he could on earth, even as the sun god fled for the fear of Rudra. When the sun god routed the demon Vidyunmali, Bhagavan Rudra darted in fury against the sun god, trident in hand. The sun god, who ran before Rudra, toppled down at Kasi, where he became to known as Lolarka. When Ashwadthama saw that his horses were fatigued and that he had none to protect him, that son of Brahmana thought of the missile presided over by Brahma, the creator, as the only means to save his life. Even though he did not know how to withdraw the missile, he sipped a little water and, finding his life in peril, fitted the same to his bow with an attentive mind. A fierce flame blazed forth from the missile and enveloped the sides. When Arjuna saw the danger to his life, he addressed Vishnu, Sri Krishna, as follows. Arjuna said, "Krishna, Krishna, mighty of arms and the allayer of devotees' fears, you are the only rescuer of those who are incessantly burning with agony of transmigration. You are the God himself, the primal person, existing beyond Prakriti, the matter. Casting aside Maya by the power of your wisdom, you stand in your absolute being. It is you who, by the virtue of your own power, confer dharma, the religious merit, and other forms of blessings on the souls whose mind is deluded by your Maya. Even so, this avatar manifestation of yours is indeed to relieve the burden of earth and to serve as an object of constant meditation for your own people as well as those who are excessively devoted to you. O self-effluent rod, I know not what invents this most frightful flame which is enveloping me on all sides." Sri Bhagavan replied, "It is no other than the missile presided over by Brahma and released by Aswatthama, the son of Drona, in extreme peril. You are aware he knows not how to call it back. There are no other missiles that can overpower it. Therefore, quench the formidable flame of this weapon by a counter flame of the same missile, expert as you are in the power of weapons." Sutta continued. On hearing Lord's words, Arjuna, the exterminator of rival warriors, sipped a little water, went round the Lord in reverence, and fitted a Brahmastra to repulse the Brahmastra discharged by Aswatthama. The two flames, surrounded by arrows, joined each other, and filling the heavens as well as the spaces between heaven and earth, swell like the sun and the fire at the time of universal destruction. Perceiving the mighty flame of the two missiles, which was consuming all three worlds, all the people who were being scorched by their heat thought it to be the fire of universal destruction. Seeing the distress of people and the impending destruction of all the worlds, and finding the approval of Sri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, Arjuna withdrew them both. Then he quickly seized the hard-hearted son of Kripa, his eyes burning with rage, and bound with him a rope as one would bind a sacrificial animal. Having forcibly bound the enemy with a rope, he was about to take him to his camp when the lotus-eyed Lord said to him in rage, Arjuna, son of Partha, you ought not to spare him. Do kill this fallen Brahmana who murdered at dead of night innocent boys buried in sleep. A pious man would never kill an enemy who was drunk, unguarded, insane, asleep, tender of age, stupid, terror-stricken, or fallen at his feet, nor would he kill a woman, nor one who has lost one's chariot. But to slay the merciless wretch who maintains his own life at the cost of another is to do him good. For the man would otherwise repeat such crimes and thereby participate in his faults. Moreover, you gave your word to Draupadi, the daughter of King of Panchala, within my hearing. I shall bring you the head of the man who has slain your sons, O proud lady. Therefore, O valiant Arjuna, dispose of this sinful ruffian who has murdered your own sons. This unworthy member of his race has done something which was loathsome even to his master Duryodhana. Urged in these words by Sri Krishna, who was putting his righteousness to test, the great Arjuna, son of Kunti, would not slay Aswatthama, his preceptor's son, even though he had murdered his own sons. Then, coming up to his camp, Arjuna, who had Sri Govinda for his friend and charioteer, showed him Aswatthama to his beloved consort, who had been grieving all while for her murdered sons. Looking intently at Aswatthama, Drona's son, who had been brought to that plight, bound with cords like a sacrificial beast, his face cast down on account of his shameful act, Draupadi, who was tender by nature, took compassion to the offender and bowed to him. That noble lady could not bear to see him brought in bondage and said, Let him be freed. Let him be released, a Brahmana that he is and worthy of our utmost adoration. That worshipful Drona, by whose grace you learnt the science of archery, with its manifold secrets has acquired the knowledge of various missiles, as well as how to discharge and call them back. It is he himself who is present in the person of his progeny, his wife, his better half, Kripi, a sister of Acharya Kripa, another preceptor of the Pandavas, yet survives. She did not follow him, declined to the ascent of his funeral pile, only because of her having given birth to a valiant son. Therefore, my blessed Lord, the family of your preceptor, which is ever worthy of adoration and salutation for you, does not deserve persecution of your hands, pious as you are. Let not his Ashwadhama's mother, Gautami, a descendant of sage Gautama, who worshipped her husband as deity, wail even as I do, grieved at the loss of my children and shedding tears again and again. The whole family of those princes of unconquered mind by whom the Brahmana race is angered is plunged in grief and is soon burnt up with all kith and kin. Suta went on. King Yudhishthira, the son of Dharma, the good of virtue, O holy Brahmanas, greeted the queen's words, which were pious and fair, compassionate, guileless, impartial, and noble. Nakula and Sahadeva, Yuddhavana or Satyaki, Arjuna, the divine Sri Krishna, son of Devaki himself, and all other men and women who had been there endorsed what she said. On that occasion, Bhima indignantly intervened and said, "For him who wantonly murdered sleeping youngsters without any gain either to himself or to his master, death has been declared as boon." Hearing the words of Bhima as well as of Draupadi, Lord Sri Krishna, who was distinguished by his 4 arms, looked into the face of the friend Arjuna and uttered the following words as though smiling. Sri Krishna said, "Even a fallen Brahmana ought not to be slain, and a ruffian surely deserves to be killed. Both these precepts have been taught to me in my scriptures. Therefore, carry out both these commands of mine. Redeem the promise you made while consoling your beloved consort. At the same time, do what is agreeable to Bhimasena and Draupadi, the daughter of King of Panchala, as well as to myself." Sutta says, Arjuna instantly understood the mind of Srihari, and with his sword cut off the gem of Brahmana's head along with his locks, releasing Aswatthama, who had been bound with cords and put out of countenance by the murder of the boys, and who has now been deprived of his splendor and gem also. Arjuna expelled him from his camp. Shaving the head as a token of disgrace, seizure of the property, and expulsion from a place where one happens to be, this is a form of capital punishment prescribed for fallen Brahmanas. There is no other corporal form of capital punishment for them. The sons of Pandu, along with Krishna, Draupadi, who were all stricken with grief at the loss of their sons, performed the cremation and other funeral rites in respect of their departed kinsmen. Thus ends the chapter 7 or Discourse 7 entitled Chastisement of Aswatthama, Drona's son, in Book 1 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as Paramahamsa Samhita. Thank you.